So, Argentina and Scotland have just finished their third test to be the decider of their series for the July internationals, and we have a winner. It is Argentina. And I did not think I was going to be saying that at any point during this game. I genuinely, from start to finish, thought Scotland had this one in the bag. They looked more in control, and then right at the end, I don't want to say they threw it away, because that would sort of diminish what Argentina did. Argentina played extremely well in those dying minutes, but Scotland, oh, I can't wait to see some of the comments from Scottish subscribers just to see how you feel at the end of that game. I imagine you are furious. I really thought that game was there for the taking. So as we've done already for the match reports already, we've already done the All Blacks versus Ireland, we've done the Wallabies versus England, and we've done the Springboks versus Wales. So what we'll be doing is going over the first half results for Argentina versus Scotland, giving some thoughts on where we were at that point, and then go over what happened in the second half, going over all the highlights, all the scores, all that fun stuff. So starting off, we had a couple of nicer mentions before the game. Both Xander Ferguson and Orlando getting their 50 caps going into this game. Really nice to see. So the game kicked off, and it took a little bit of a while for both teams to just sort of get settled. They were sort of taking it in turns doing things. In the first minute, Rory Darge got a nice jackal penalty, and then in the third minute, Argentina got a jackal penalty. We had all the way up until the 6-minute mark doing a bit of kicking tennis. Both teams just trying to feel each other out a little bit. We had the first score came in the 10th minute with a penalty from Buffelli. This was the first scrum of the game. Argentina looked absolutely brilliant in this first scrum, driving Scotland backwards, managing to earn themselves a penalty. It was pretty far out. It was a good sort of 55-metre kick, but Buffelli got an absolute gun of a leg, absolutely hammered that one. Got that one over to put them in the lead at 3-0, but very quickly afterwards, Scotland answered with their own score. Duhan van der Merwe going over for a try. Scotland's first attack of the game, which they actually got settled. The backs gaining good ground. Kinghorn took a really nice line, managing to offload it around his own tackler off to Duhan van der Merwe, who had two men hanging off his shoulders as he crashes over for a try. Absolutely brilliant. Kinghorn kicked it over, so it took them 7-3 into the lead. Scotland took on the attack. They were making good ground through most of the carries. However, Argentina were just about holding out in their defence, managing to shut down Scotland. Scotland's defence was looking good at this point. The ability to rip the ball was looking extremely good. They just looked a little bit desperate. After they'd ripped the ball, it almost felt like Scotland didn't really know what to do with it. So there were some wild decisions, offloading, just chucking the ball around or just kicking it really far. They didn't really look like they knew what they wanted to do in possession when they got the advantage, rather than creating the main counter-attack. And this is one of the things that eventually led to a try coming in from Carreras. The ball was ripped from an Argentina player. The ball passed out wide. Kinghorn took the ball to the line and decided to just sort of chip the ball over the top of the line. It was sort of okay, but didn't really lead to anything. Ball bounced. He missed the sort of volley kick afterwards. And then Argentina scooped up the ball and just ran at a completely broken Scotland line, who were not ready to be on the defensive. Managed to get round, popped off the ball to Carreras, who just ran it straight under the post for a try. Easy as you like on the counter-attack. Buffelli getting a kick over and taking Argentina back into the lead, 10-7. 5 minutes later, we see the next try of the game coming in from Ewan Ashburn. Scotland back on the offensive very shortly after the kick-off. They managed to work their way up. They got a penalty. Now, this was quite an interesting call. It was sort of in between the touchline and the post. It looks like maybe they'd go for the 3 points just to try and hold out that lead. They decided not to and actually went to the corner. Thought that was a big call at this point, but they went for the corner. Ewan Ashburn managing to get the ball at the back of that driving maul, goes over for the try, and the conversion was successful from Scotland, taking them to 14-10. Argentina had the chance to potentially close that gap a little bit when they got their own penalty for Scotland ripping the ball off a player who was held up in the air. I thought that was quite a harsh penalty to give against Scotland, but Buffelli actually missed that kick. Quite a difficult kick, and he sort of sliced it. So no harm, no foul, I guess, really. Scotland managed to win a free kick at the next scrum for early engagement. And it was sort of a blessing in disguise, really, throughout this game. Scotland winning penalties and free kicks at the scrum time, because in all honesty, throughout most of this game, I actually thought Argentina were on top of the scrum, but they just couldn't quite get a full scrum finished. It always led with someone collapsing it or leading to a penalty or a free kick for early engagement. I think that really saved Scotland here. In the 33rd minute, we saw another one of these weird decision-making choices from Scotland. Argentina managed to clear the ball. It lands in the arms of Rufus McLean, who has acres of space around him and 4 players down his wing, but instead he decides to attempt to try and run directly at 2 defenders that were right there in front of him. He tries to step one of them. Carreras got a good tackle around the ankles, and Argentina just absolutely swallowed him up with 4 players. Really weird decision making. It was one of the things that kept happening in this game. Scotland seemed absolutely on top of this game, but just kept doing things that they just didn't need to do, put themselves in high-risk situations that were never really going to pay off to anything. That led then to an Argentina penalty in terms of getting the jackal over there as well, and Buffelli kicked that one, closing that gap up to Argentina 13, Scotland 14. Scotland had the chance to extend their lead just a little bit just before halftime, getting a penalty for Argentina offside in the 40th minute. It was quite a long-range kick. It was just before the sort of 50-metre line. Bit too far maybe for Kinghorn. Took the kick. I thought it went in. I'd already added it to the graphic. I'd already written it down. It went over, but apparently it fell literally millimetres short. And with that, the end of the first half came to a conclusion, ending with Argentina on that 13 points and Scotland on 14. So really tight-knit in the first half, but it really looked like Scotland were on the top of the game, really, and that Argentina, the only way they were going to be able to get these scores was counter-attacking or through Scotland's own penalty. It didn't really feel like the game was going to slip away from Scotland that much. They looked confident. So the notes that I wrote at half-time, I wrote, Scotland attack looking good with the ball in hand. They absolutely were. Every carry was doing extremely well, making good meters through the forwards. The backs were just sort of carving their way through. Absolutely brilliant. I've wrote down here far too many poor decisions. Extra passes, kicking pointlessly, or carrying with no support around. And this happened an awful lot in this game. Having a ruck that would just sort of end and having a forward pick up the ball from the back of the ruck and just charge at the line single-handedly with no support with you. Little kicks over the top. Players just desperately sort of chucking the passes around rather than just taking it in. They just didn't need to be doing all these extra movements. They just needed to settle down a little bit. The line-out was in disarray for Scotland. Last week they got away with it because of the amount of wind going on. This week was just God almighty. Not only were Argentina on top of the line-out, Argentina looked great in the line-out, in all honesty. They had a really good game. But Scotland looked terrible in the line-out. And that's coming from someone who supports Wales. We have not had a good line-out for a good while. Scotland line-out. Both hookers throughout the game. Line-outs overthrown, just not getting to your man. The Argentina jumpers were just throwing up basically their front man every time, and it went directly to their hands. So many interceptions. I didn't manage to find the stat for what it was at the end of the first half, but I believe it was something like 7 line-outs and 5 lost from what I was trying to count or remember from my own head. Real bad in terms of the line-outs. Really did not look settled at all. From Argentina's perspective, working really well as a team. Defence was actually working at a really high intensity, which was nice to see. They're carrying that on from the week previously. Argentina just need to cut down on the penalty count. A few too many penalties, especially in that breakdown area. Scotland were really killing them a little bit in the area. But then so many more jackal threats from Argentina. They looked much better this week in terms of trying to turn that ball back over, try and win their own penalties. They know what Darge and Watson and Ferguson were doing last game to them. So they really worked on that from last week, and they looked far better now this week, Argentina, in trying to get that ball back in the breakdown. On to the second half then, and we did not have to wait long for the first try of the second half, coming in from another one from Ashman. This came from a scrum, basically from the initial kickoff. Scotland picked up the ball from the back of the scrum, launched a big attack. The set play was a bit flat. It didn't really look like it was going to go anywhere, but they just went through the phases. They eventually managed to spread wide. Ashman finds himself on the wing. Where else do you want a hooker? That's the best place for one to be. And then managed to actually get really nicely in for the corner. The conversion was also successful from Kinghorn. So very early into the second half, Scotland take a commanding lead here, 21-13, 8 points in the lead, looking really good. Not too much later, Scotland doubled down on this with the next try coming in from Duhan van der Merwe. This one started from a lovely jackal penalty won by Rory Darge. They managed to kick back into Argentina's half. The line out went well. They just threw to the front man, play it safe. That's the way to go. Scotland went through some good carrying lines. Line break by Mark Bennett made really big meters for them. The forwards were carrying well. I've written down both Ferguson's, Darge and Watson carrying to the line and beyond. That's what you want to see. Eventually, Duhan van der Merwe gets on that. We know what he's like, the winger that uses himself as a forward, goes for the pick and go and gets himself over. That try again converted by Kinghorn, taking them to 28 points to 13 within 10 minutes of this first half. Scotland, however, not able to keep on top of it. From the next kickoff, there was an immediate penalty given for obstruction. Again, just a weird decision-making. Players just running into their own man. No need. Argentina get a really easy penalty. They decide to kick to corner. They go for the driving maul, which is stopped well by Scotland. Argentina go through the pick and go, and that's where Tatas Chaparro comes in with his own try, and Boffelli manages to convert that one, bringing Argentina back into this game almost immediately at 28 points to 20 now, closing that gap down to 8 points. Scotland have an attacking line out, and the next one is thrown long and goes loose again. And this is something we just see so often. They managed to win another penalty at the scrum. Only a few minutes later, they kicked it to the touchline again, through the next line out from Dave Cherry, and it was overthrown again, literally not even getting to the jumpers. They were really struggling in that line out, so they just could not work out what to do. And yet they didn't try and sort of consolidate and just go to the front man. They were trying these elaborate long-range throws that just weren't working for them. It's an area that Scotland will be extremely worried about moving forwards. They'll need to try and fix that before they get into their next few games. They managed to keep the scoreboard ticking over, though, when in the 62nd minute they managed to win 2 free kicks and a penalty at the scrum. The ref beginning to find favour now in that Scotland discipline in terms of the scrum looking good. They kick up to the Argentina 22. They had a line out. Scotland go on the attack, and they got up to the 5-metre line and win another penalty. This time they played it safe. They just took the 3 points, just keep themselves at bay. Scotland go up to 31-20. Argentina do as they've done for the rest of this game. They immediately go on the counter-attack with the next strike coming in from Argentina in the 67th minute from Bertrano. Argentina won a line out from their own kickoff. It landed in McLean's arms, who for some reason didn't just let it bounce into touch and at least have a line out. He decided to catch it literally on the line and then just got bundled into touch. Argentina begin their attack. They're trying to make those good meters. Scotland do hold up well on their own try line. It moves all the way to the corner when Bertrano picks up from the back of the ruck and just dives for the line in that corner. That's what you want to see from a scrum half. Manages to get in, and a really well taken conversion from Boffelli draws them back within 4 points going into the final 10 minutes. Scotland looked like they had the opportunity to close out the game just in that 70th minute. Scotland got a lovely charge down. Pierre Schoeman getting his hands just above the box kick. They went on the attack. Scotland got the penalty for offside awarded. Now, remember, they are only 4 points in the lead. There's 10 minutes left. They are stood basically in between the touchline and the post. It's a pretty easy 3 points, but they decide to kick to corner, and I thought this was such a dangerous move to go for here. They went for the line out. They went for another outrageously elaborate line out. It does actually manage to pull off. The ball gets dropped down to Gray, who manages to get over the line, but is just swarmed by about 5 players going over the line and is held up. Doesn't manage to get it down. No try. Argentina have a really clean exit. Again, so many weird decisions from Scotland in terms of their counter-attack running, not going for an up and under with any sort of prowess. They're just sort of carrying the ball back at the Argentinian defenders, really struggling to just know what to do with the ball. Argentina managed to get the ball back with only 7 minutes left of the game. They go on a huge attack. They make 80 metres all the way back up the field just through silly mistakes and penalties given away through Scotland. Argentina go through the phases, but Scotland's defence manages to hold. Scotland win a penalty. Going straight off feet, they manage to clear all the way back to the Argentina line. They can breathe a sigh of relief. They go to the line out and they lose the line out again. Another massive issue for them. And then all the way from here up until the end of the game, it is all Argentina, all-out attack. Scotland look absolutely desperate, trying to hold this together. There is no shape. They are just throwing men at whoever has the ball. They don't look like they can win turnovers. Argentina are on fire. They are absolutely going for it. And eventually it leads to a scrum. And this scrum just looked absolutely dangerous. It was just not quite under the post, but just off centre from the posts. And Argentina in the dominant position there took the scrum, didn't let this one drop, moving forward until they got that advantage. They spread the ball wide all the way to Buffelli on the wing, who takes it down for the try, and somehow as well on top of it, we get the conversion from Buffelli, and Argentina steal the victory away at 34-31. Right at the end of this game, and I couldn't believe it watching it. I thought this was one of the weirdest games I've ever seen. This game had both teams playing to the best standard I think we've seen throughout this tournament for both teams. Argentina looked like they were absolutely gunning for this game from minute one. They were just struggling to find the groundwork to get going. Scotland looked dominant for 60 minutes of this game. They had a lead of 17 points. But the line-out situation, they just couldn't fix it. And rather than being sort of safe with it and just going for the front man and just playing these basic line-outs, they kept trying these elaborate line-outs, going to the back jumpers, throwing it into the middle where there was two really solid Argentinian jumpers, just not adapting to the situation at all. They were stripping the ball back and then just immediately kicking it up to Argentina. The forwards were working really hard in terms of the breakdown situation, turning the ball over only for Ali Price just to boot it back down the field. It just looked absolutely shapeless for Scotland right at the end. And in about the 75th minute, I was watching the game and I said, Scotland are going to lose this. I can see it coming. They just don't look like they're able to hold this out. Argentina look hungry for this. And that is how the game ended up. I think from a Scotland perspective, Gregor Townsend should be furious at the game management in this game. To go 17 points up in a game, scoring 4 tries, absolutely dominating a game, managing to take away one of the big platforms of Argentina in the scrummaging area, and still not coming away with that win, not being able to seal out the ball is really bad. They'll want to be working on this a lot. I don't want to take anything away from Argentina. I thought they played brilliantly in that final 20 minutes. And to be honest, that final 20 minutes alone, I felt like Argentina deserved to win. They were desperate to get over that try line. They went through the phases. They did the hard graft and they got over. I can't help wonder why they decided to go for the corner on some of the penalties for Scotland as opposed to just taking these 3 points and going in. You know, the final score is 3 points difference. And they had one missed penalty and one opportunity just to take a really easy 3 points and instead went for the corner that led to nothing. Oh man, I think Scotland are in some big trouble if they can't fix that line-out situation, and some game management conversations probably be needing to happen with some of the more experienced players. But there we have it, guys. That is going to be the match report for today for this game. Let me know down in the comments what you thought about this game. I'm really interested to know what some of the Scotland subscribers thought about this game, going from being absolutely on top of this game to somehow losing that game. I still don't quite know what happened there. I'm really looking forward to see what you guys have to say about it. If you've enjoyed this one today, feel free to drop this video a like, and to keep up to date with all the latest videos, including what we'll be doing the world rankings next week. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel just to keep up to date with when those videos come out. I will see you all next time, guys. Bye bye.